Hey guys, welcome into this segment from our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. In order to get the full podcast, go down to the description, go to Blog Talk Radio / The Onside Kick to download the full thing. Enjoy, everybody. And Mark, we're going to move on into our last topic on the podcast, and we are talking about draft, NFL draft here on The Onside Kick. We talked about all NFL draft last week. We had to throw in a topic this week. It's basically a fun one. We looked at Tom Brady last week. Will 2017 be his last year because of the move for Brandon Cooks down to Hightower? Now we're looking at the other side of that move. The Saints, because they gave up Brandon Cooks, now have a 32nd overall pick to use in the first round. And basically, I'm going to just throw it at you like this. Will the Saints use the last pick in the first round to draft Drew Brees' successor and go quarterback?
I kind of think they will. Even though in my mock draft I didn't have it go that way, but it didn't make sense to do it that way because I already had 3 quarterbacks go in the first round. Don't yell at me. So people yelling at me all the time for the damn mock draft. I don't know what's up.
They're just passionate, Mark.
Yeah, I guess so.
Check out that mock draft in the description, by the way.
Right. Tell me what your team's going to do. Those are my favorite ones. This is what my team's actually going to do. Cool. That doesn't change my opinion of what I think your team's going to do, but I like it.
But what do you think the Saints will do? Will they go quarterback?
What I did in the mock draft was I had them go cornerback and safety in the opposite order. Safety first, cornerback later. So I still think that's what they probably should do, but they can't ignore the fact that Drew Brees is old as hell, and even though he keeps cannoning out 5,000-yard seasons like it's nothing, and being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, he can't do it forever. You got to go with something. And they've got maybe 2 years out of Drew Brees, maybe a third year out of him. So, you know what? Get a guy like Mahomes. I think potentially Kaiser, there's a good chance Kaiser's still there unless a team earlier wants to jump on him. A team that wants a successor, or maybe like the Houston Texans or something like that no longer have a quarterback. So Kaiser's potentially there. I like the idea of Mahomes going to a team like the Saints. The problem that they're going to face is Drew Brees has already said, I don't know how much longer I can be on a team that's not winning, and for him, if they don't address the defense immediately, which is one of the worst defenses in the league, especially with giving up points, he knows he's not going to win again. He knows he won't win again, and how much longer does that let him stick around before he says, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to win. Why am I putting my body through this? I'm retiring. And then your successor is thrown to the fire immediately, and is not that great of a situation for that young kid to develop.
See, I am on the other side. You said that that you could see them going
I see them doing it. Yes, I do.
I don't. And the reason being is if I'm going to go, let's say you told me, Ricky, you have to go offense with the last pick of the first round if you're the Saints. I'd say, okay, I ain't going with a quarterback. What position will I go on the offensive side? I'm going to take a wide receiver. What did I just lose? Brandon Cooks. You bring in Ted Ginn Jr. this year from free agency. Right now, how it looks is Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn Jr. are your receivers on the outside. Willie Snead is your next one up at number 3. And then you have Brandon Coleman at 4. I like Michael Thomas. Ted Ginn Jr. is a nice guy to have, but I know from fantasy football he suffers from a little bit of the dropsies, Mark, as I drop my camera stand over here. He doesn't know how to hang on to the ball sometimes, and he has critical drops in key situations.
Yeah.
That's what I think when it comes to Ted Ginn Jr. So if I'm them, maybe I'm looking for a wide receiver. Maybe then yours. Mike Williams fell out of the first round. Maybe I go after a Mike Williams. Maybe a D.D. Westbrook is a guy that you look for. What if John Ross falls? I know he had a quick combine. You had him rise in yours. If he's there, maybe go with John Ross. I go maybe a Zay Jones, the guy that everyone thinks is going to go so high in the second round. That's what I would do on the offensive side. If I'm going to go offense there, and notice I'm saying if I go offense with that pick, because really going defense would probably be the best thing for the Saints, if I'm going offense with that pick, I would go with a weapon for Drew Brees to throw to. Because let's be honest, let's say this is the last year for Drew Brees. It's okay. Next year's quarterback class is going to be stacked. And I feel like the Saints are in a position where you don't need to go out there and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and draft the successor to Drew Brees. How many teams really have that kind of guy that they draft
the
and
seamless
boom, he
transition,
takes over
it's tough.
and it takes over? The only one that I can think of in recent years is the Green Bay Packers really did it. They drafted Aaron Rodgers, and then he seamlessly took over for Aaron Rodgers. And if Colts fans are trying to go, ooh, we did it. No, Peyton Manning didn't play for a year. You lucked into the first, literally lucked into the first overall pick, which was Andrew Luck. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you got to have a little bit of luck in these situations.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Saints, don't worry about a quarterback in the first round. Don't worry about it, because let Drew Brees play out this season. And if you need a quarterback next year, guess what? Next year's class is going to be stacked. We are going to have Darnold. We're going to have Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. We're probably going to have Baker Mayfield, even though he had the off-the-field issue where, if you haven't seen the video, I advise going out and watching it, where basically he gets pulled over for being drunk in public, and he's just kind of standing there, and then you could see in his head where he has the thought, wait a second, I'm a D1 athlete. This is a fat cop. I can outrun him. And he goes to run, and then the cops just tackle him. Like, it is hilarious where you're seeing how quickly he is thinking about it.
If you're a scout, you're thinking, ooh, I don't think he's going to outrun anybody on the defense here.
If a fat cop, well, the cops weren't that fat, but you know what a dumb kid is probably thinking.
They go through training, you know.
It's one of those things where if you're a D1 athlete, you think that you're on the top of the world.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Saints, I don't go quarterback, because it's like, next year I'll get it.
Here's my thing, Ricky. I say it every time. We always say that next year's quarterback class is better. We always say that we don't know for sure what's going to happen. It's a lot to hope on.
Injuries.
Injuries can happen. Players can just fall off. Remember when
Christian Hackenberg.
Yeah, remember when Matt Barkley was the number 1 overall quarterback to be taken.
Then he had his last year in college.
Exactly. So and even here, the Saints, who were a 7-9 team last year, they're not going to be in a good enough position. If this next draft class is as amazing at quarterbacks, they're not going to be in a good enough position to do that, to take one of those guys.
Well, I'm not saying you don't take one at all in this draft. You just don't take one in the first round.
Yeah. It is potentially, it's possible that the guy you would take at 32 might still be there at, whatever the next one is that they take in the second round. So it's totally possible depending on who takes quarterbacks early. But of course, remember that the 49ers, the Browns, the Bears, the Jets, potentially the Bills, even though, yes, they did re-sign Tyrod Taylor or fix Tyrod Taylor's deal. All these teams potentially need quarterbacks. So a lot of teams can make those choices. But
42, that's their next pick. So they have 32 and then 42.
So the other thing to think about, and I know this is just if you had to take a wide receiver, the one reason I don't like it is you're not going to get a rookie wide receiver to be better than Brandon Cooks. And I know Brandon Cooks is just getting into his 4th year of his deal, and you're going to have to pay him the big bucks. So they got something good out of him. They got a first-round pick and a third-round pick out of him.
But you wouldn't have to shove him in to a starting role, because you do have Ted Ginn, you do have Michael Thomas, you do have Willie Snead.
But I don't really believe in Ted Ginn as much as some people would.
But we can stick him as a number 1, number 2 wide receiver while the rookie gains his footing.
Yeah, but I still think your offense with Brandon Cooks, if you're going in the win now type of mentality.
Brandon Cooks is better than Ted Ginn.
Exactly. Yeah, he's going to be better. But of course, if they're going in a win now mentality, they're probably addressing the defense first. Yeah, I just like the idea because, yes, you're probably not going to luck into this situation, but worst thing that happens, if you see practice and you're thinking, oh, we don't really believe in this guy, Mahomes wasn't all he was cracked up to be, he's not developing, maybe you can trade him for a second or a third round.
Let me throw this in there, though, and here's another. This is a thing that kind of leans towards maybe taking that quarterback. So they have the pick at 32. 33, the Browns.
Need a quarterback.
34, the 49ers.
Need a quarterback.
36, the Bears.
Need it.
39, the Jets.
Need it.
Those are 4 teams in your way within those 10 pick in between that need quarterbacks. And it all depends on the Bears and the Niners and the Jets. Well, Bears and Niners for sure probably aren't going to take a quarterback at 2 and 3 as of right now.
Yeah.
The Jets could at 6. The Browns could at 12. So depending on what those 2 teams do, 2 to 4 teams could be looking quarterback. And maybe in that kind of stretch from 33 to 39, we see a run of quarterbacks go to the Browns, Niners, Bears, and Jets. And then if you're the Saints, if you think that, you're going, well, let's start it. Let's start at 32 so we get the pick of the guy that we want. I can see that. Like, if that's in your game plan, I could see it. If I'm going to go quarterback, I'm going to go with your model. Let's say 3 are off the board. Mahomes is my top guy. If not, but like Kaiser hasn't impressed scouts, but I would probably go Kaiser or Mahomes at 32. I just don't think the Saints need to go quarterback at
No, they don't need to.
overall.
But the thing for the Saints is eventually the team's got to get to the point where they do think about that future. And, of course, they got to not scare Drew Brees in the process away into wanting to play somewhere else. As, you know, every offseason we talk about how Drew Brees doesn't want to be there, how Sean Payton doesn't want to be there. You know, all this type of stuff. Apparently no one wants to be in New Orleans, even though I hear it's a fun city. So it's just one of those type of things where the team has to look at themselves realistically and think, can we get one more Super Bowl out of Drew Brees while he's here?
Can I throw this out there?
Sure.
Do you ever, this offense, if you're the Saints, does the thought ever cross your mind? I'm not saying like a serious, like for sure do it, but does the thought cross your mind to say, let's see what the Broncos and Texans will do?
To trade for Drew Brees?
Let's pick up the phone. Let's see. Let's just float it out there. See what they want. Beat Tony Romo, because it looks like the Cowboys, they were going to release Romo. Now they're not. Now they want to trade him. If I'm the Saints, maybe I go, okay, maybe I can use this as leverage to get a pick or 2 or something out of these 2 teams. And I'm just going to go with the quarterback with that 32nd overall pick.
The mutiny that will happen in New Orleans for trading Drew Brees will be insane. They will be calling for heads. And, you know, unless...
You could then go and sign Jay Cutler.
You could. That's not going to be a trade that... an exchange that makes anybody that happy. You know,
But if it gets you, let's say, if you get them to Houston and it gets you the 25th overall pick?
I mean, sure. I just don't think that that's going to make... If you're, let's say, some magical way, shape, or form, you get the 12th pick because you traded him to Cleveland or something, Drew Brees would probably just retire. But, you know, if something like that happens...
back 11, 12.
Yeah, that could make sense because you're really shooting your way up there. But to just get to, you know, the Broncos or the Texans picks... It's not really giving you enough value because you know once you trade away that quarterback, you have to draft a new one. And the problem is, which one of these quarterbacks is going to have the New Orleans Saints going, that's the guy we need. We need him. It's not like Jay Cutler's young enough. It's not like Tony Romo's going to be a viable option. They're not trading for Jimmy Garoppolo or anything like that.
I just floated it out there because it's one of those things where if you're saying... Well, Drew Brees doesn't know how long he's going to play for.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at it going, well, why don't we try to make a move?
I think it's just a good way to get a GM fired.
I mean, I'm not Saint fans. Before you have already gone down in the comment section, I am not saying go and trade Drew Brees.
Just saying what if.
I'm just throwing it out there because obviously that's...
Is it possible?
Well, you're going to look at all your options and see if it is an option. Do I think it's a serious option? No. I just wanted to throw it out there. But to kind of answer the question and put a kibosh on it, do the Saints need to go out and get a quarterback at the 32nd overall pick? No. If I'm the Saints, do I get a quarterback there? No. I go defense, 12 and 32nd overall. I maybe pick up a quarterback in the 2nd or the 3rd, depending on how the quarterbacks are falling in the 2nd round. And then I kind of hope for and see, okay, let's see how this season goes, and let's see how great next year's draft class is. Let's see where it is, because it could even be a deep enough class to where one guy who is really this kind of a talent, like a first-round talent, falls to you. And it's like, oh, he had a bad pro day, but we know he can be good for our system, and you can look for him next year in the draft. I would not go with a quarterback at the 32nd overall pick. How about you?
I personally would not necessarily want to go quarterback, but I think I would give it a shot. The way I'm going to view this 32nd
And you're saying
pick,
Mahomes would be the guy? Mahomes
yeah,
or Kaiser?
I would take Mahomes or Kaiser. I would probably go with Mahomes for the developmental side of it. I like the upside of him. I like his potential. So what I'm going to say is I'm viewing this 32nd pick as kind of free money. You know, whatever my plans for Brandon Cooks was going to be is not neither here or there right now. This is something free. I didn't have this pick. I didn't expect to have this pick. Now I have it. So, you know what? Sure. Let's take a chance on one of these guys that's developmental. I already fixed one of my needs, you know, safety, cornerback, whichever. I already fixed one of these needs early on in the draft, and now let's get this guy and hope for good, because Drew Brees, he's 38 right now. How much longer is he going to play?
I'm going to throw one last question out to you that just popped into my head. Todd McShay has Mitch Trubisky going 25 to the Texans. Let's say the Texans work out a deal for Tony Romo. They get something to where they don't need to draft a quarterback. If Trubisky falls at 32nd overall, if you're the Saints, do you take him and then say, hey, people said he had to maybe go back to college for an extra year or two. Well, guess what? You are now Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Drew Brees.
Get redshirted. Yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, that would probably be the best scenario for them is, you know, Deshaun Watson's not a guy you're going to sit and let learn. You know, Trubisky could be that guy where you can sit and let him learn, and he definitely has some ability to develop and see greater potential. You know, is he going to be a good successor for Drew Brees? I don't know about that. But, you know, it's definitely a solid option for them. And a guy like that who people expect to go a lot higher to drop like that, you're feeling pretty good about it.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below. What do you guys think? Should the Saints go quarterback with the 32 overall pick? Should they wait till later round? Should they wait till next year? Saint fans, we especially want to hear from you guys. I want to also thank you guys for checking out the Onside Kick this week. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, and Stitcher, thank you guys for listening to the full podcast today. I want to also, if you love the podcast, hit the subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you want to support the channel in a different way, go ahead and check out patreon.com/most valuable podcast. I'm going to thank you guys one last time for checking out the podcast today, giving us a piece of your day, evening, whatever it is. But as always, have a good day, everybody. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that segment from the Onside Kick. If you think the fun stops there, you're wrong, because click the video right over here. What are you thinking? Come on, click it. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. Bye, everybody.